It is my great privilege, and I'm very excited to welcome today to the stage Matthew Gain from Audible. He is the Senior Vice President and Head of Audible Europe, as well as the Managing Director of Audible GmbH here in Germany. And he is going to talk to you today about growing sales and audiences with audiobooks. This is something that I think we're excited to hear about from Audible, clearly one of the leaders in this field. So Matthew, please come on up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for having me, and thank you for coming along. I hope I will do justice to what the slides say I will do. I have a few challenges. We've only got 20 minutes, and I've got a lot of information and data to get through. I'm also doing that very tired, and whilst I lead the European business, you can probably hear from my accent, I'm not European. I grew up in Australia, and I had to go back and visit Mum and Dad just last week, and so I got off a plane yesterday afternoon and arrived here at the fair at 1:30 p.m. So my body thinks it's currently 20 minutes to 1 a.m. And whilst looking at me, I'm sure you assume I spend most weekends at Berghain. It's actually not the case, and so I'm a little bit tired, but let me try and work through this and introduce what we are doing. A little bit about myself. As I mentioned, I'm Australian, but I have had the pleasure of working, I think, at Audible across more of our marketplaces than anybody that works there. I launched the Australian marketplace. I was then involved in Japan and India. We have a free service and a paid service in India. And more recently, been working across the European marketplaces. And why I share that is because what's interesting and what I'm going to share here is, whilst here in Europe, a lot of the time we focus a lot on how the French are different from the Germans, are different from the Italians and the Spanish, and all of the other fantastic countries we just saw in the session before. I'm going to be sharing data that is very similar across all of our global marketplaces, and that has been really one of the experiences that I've had looking and working across all of our marketplaces. It is really remarkable how even people as far away as Japan behave very similar to customers here in Germany. And I think that those are insights that we can use both as publishers and other people working in industry to understand how to maximize our sales and maximize customer benefit. So that's me. Just a little bit about Audible. I suspect most of you know, but I'm going to share some numbers here. We now have 11 dedicated marketplaces after launching in Brazil earlier this month. We were very excited about it, and you're going to see some data in a moment that talks to you about why we're so excited about launching in Brazil. However, we have customers from over 180 countries that we serve from those 11 marketplaces. We offer content in 47 languages. We focus on where we are in the 11 marketplaces, but we have content from all over the world. And we have 850,000 titles available. In the last 5 years, Audible has worked with over 600,000 authors and narrators to create content. We're incredibly proud of the impact and the opportunities and the industry that we have been creating. 4 billion hours of Audible content was consumed in 2022. That number is going to be bigger again, and I'll show you some of that data in a moment, in 2023. I expect it's going to be even bigger in 2024. Well, there's the number there. 25, I told you I was tired. 25% year-over-year worldwide listening increase in 2022, and we're on track to hit and exceed that again in 2023. I'm going to share some research data that we have conducted with Kantar. And that research, we've been conducting that for 7 years. It's the Audible Compass, Her Compass, it was previously called here in Germany, where we've been running it the longest. We conducted an online survey in July of this year, 15,000 people across Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Spain, UK, USA, and Brazil. between the ages of 18 and 65. And that has informed some of the research I'm going to share here. I'm also going to share some content trends, which is not informed by this research, but is just our own data and usage data that I think should be useful and hopefully can inform and change some of the publisher behaviours, particularly in some of our emerging marketplaces. Should we get underway? Consumption trends. Spoken word content is mainstream. We have 47% of respondents, and I think that for those of you who were here in the earlier session with Oliver, 47% of respondents have listened to audio entertainment in the last year. The definition of audio entertainment is an audiobook, a podcast, or an audio drama, Hörspiele here in Germany. You can see on the country breakdown that differs across some of the marketplaces. Brazil, one of our newest dedicated services, has 60%, largely driven by podcasts. You can see the US marketplace, which is our largest marketplace, has 58%. There are opportunities in France, Germany, Italy, and Spain to increase those numbers and increase consumption, particularly of audiobooks. But we need the publishing community to help us to achieve those higher numbers. Here's the breakdown of where those numbers come from. Again, this is the global number broken down. We have it broken down by country if you're interested, and I can provide that. I'll put my email at the end here. 36% of respondents have listened to a podcast in the last 12 months. That's a 3% year-over-year increase, still growing. 24% of respondents have listened to an audiobook, 3% increase year-over-year, still growing. 14% for audio dramas. That was flat year on year, but I think that the difference for many customers, a lot of the content, if you think about the work that we're doing with Marvel or with DC and Sandman now, is that a podcast, is that an audiobook, or is that an audio drama or Hörspiel? So I think that's the reason why we're not seeing the growth there. And that trend is similar in all marketplaces. We're seeing growth in all marketplaces, particularly in some of those emerging marketplaces. So where are customers listening? And this has been something that's evolving over time. 67% of our customers are listening at home. Now, when I say at home, that doesn't mean they necessarily sat down on their couch listening over their stereo, but we're seeing people responding that they do it whilst they're cooking, whilst they're cleaning, whilst they're preparing things around the home. Equally, on the road, which includes public transport, commuting, and driving, is 43%. Those are our two biggest use case or consumption opportunities. We see slightly higher, less car in Europe than in, say, the North America, where there's more of a car-centric culture and more of a commuter-centric culture here in Germany. But 43% on the road, 67% at home. Customers are listening for different reasons, but it was really interesting. 69% was the number both for I want content that educates me and I want content that entertains me. Now 69%, obviously that shows that people are listening to both. I want content that educates me certain times and I want content that entertains me at other times. So we're seeing that it's not just, audio content isn't just a fiction experience or an education experience, it's both in many cases. Most fans of audiobooks appreciate the format as it offers them the possibility to consume more books. And I really want to land this message with the publisher community because a lot of the time we hear reluctance sometimes to have books in audio or have them released at the same time because we don't want to cannibalize our print and ebook sales. It's not the case, and we see this over and over and over again. People that are listening to audiobooks are also buying books. They're reading books with their eyes. Oftentimes, they're using audiobooks for times where they can't use their eyes. We just saw that in the commute and the on-the-road experience. No one's reading whilst they're driving, and a lot of people aren't reading when they're commuting, but it's a great opportunity to be listening. It's not cannibalistic. So those are the consumption trends. I'm going pretty quickly through this, but I'm also working through my time. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the content trends. And these are the slides for those working in the publishing industry that I do want you to take photos of. You can take photos of all of them, but I really want, these are the messages I really want to land. Listening by genre is largely similar across the globe. 47% of our customers are listening to mysteries and thrillers, 43% comedy. You can see some slight differences by countries there, but not massive differences. Science fiction and fantasy, we know that's a huge area for audio. Health and wellness, and romance. The other point I want to land here is that this largely mirrors when we look at Amazon sales of books for content that can be consumed in audio, we see that it has a very similar trend on print, ebook, and audio. Now, of course, more cookbooks and children's books sold in print, less in audio, obviously. But across these core genres, we find that it tracks the sales on Amazon very, very closely. And series have an outsized impact on consumption. The reason why series have an outsized impact on consumption is that when we release the second episode, the second volume or second episode of a podcast, or the third, what we find is people go back and listen to the first one as well. I'm going to give you some data on Harry Potter. We put Harry Potter 1 and 2 here in Germany into the Plus catalogue, which is our all-you-can-listen catalogue. Sales of books 3, 4, and 5, we saw a massive increase, 62%. And that was a 62% on the 10 months post versus prior. And so we're working now with a lot of publishers to be offering first, when we're getting to the second issue or the third issue, putting those into our Plus catalogue to stimulate demand. The nature of our subscription business really drives series in a very effective and positive way, and is a great driver for our business. Just one other stat here. Our original Aura series, working with Sebastian Fitzek, we put the 4th episode, and it was a credit offering, and we saw a 440% increase on the whole series the moment that 4th episode came out. So series is incredibly popular for us and incredibly popular for our customers. This is the point I really want to land. Simultaneous production. And what I mean by that is the book comes out in ebook, in print, in audio. Our sales, 3x. So often we're working with publishers and the ebook and the print book comes out and the audiobook comes out much later. And we're being very generous here. Simultaneous, we're saying 1 month. So it's within 1 month, the audiobook is coming out from the print book, it's 3x. On day and date, I expect that number is 5x or even higher. We really need for our customers want the books on audio at the same time that they're coming out in ebook and in print. I've shown you before that it's not cannibalistic, and so this is a really important point, and we're going to be providing more and more data on this to help you convince people within the publishing industry and your bosses potentially that are reluctant to give audiobooks at the same time as print and ebook. And those are my 3 points that I want to land with you. Simpub, simultaneous release. Big releases for print and ebook are also big for audio. It maps and tracks the same list. Plan ahead of time, bring us in. Let us work with you so that we can don't do the manuscript and the print and the ebook and get that out and then start worrying about the audio. Bring us in early and we'll be able to work with you to really maximize those sales for you and the benefit for our customers. I'm going to hang around for drinks, I think, after this. So you're welcome to speak to me. But I think we've got a little bit of time now, Hannah, and 4 minutes. So we can take some questions from the floor if you have them for me.
You showed comedy as your second biggest category, and I'm just curious what you would include. Like, how would you define comedy? Is it stand-up comedy? Like,
I feel like that's a very existential question. I don't know how to answer that. I'm going to have to come back to you on how we define the comedy genre. It's not just stand-up. Definitely not stand-up. So yeah, But let me come back to you. It's a good question.
I'm part of a Brazilian audiobook publishing house, and I wanted to ask, why are you excited about Brazilian market?
We are excited about the Brazilian market because 60% of respondents to our survey are listening to audio content today. And so we know that a lot of that is podcasts, but that shows us that there's a real appetite for customers in Brazil for storytelling consumed in an audio format. So that's why we're excited by Brazil. We've just launched there. We're excited because of Brazil, because the numbers have been really great so far as well. And we're excited about Brazil because we've got some fantastic partners there that have been able to help us build an exclusive catalogue. So that's why we're excited about Brazil. Yeah, great. Okay, well, let's have a chat after this and let's get them in there.
Can you say anything about the children's market?
I can say some stuff about. I don't know who's asking me that question. Sure, sorry. I can say some stuff about the children's market. We have seen real success here in Germany, in particular, with the children's market, and I think that Germany is probably our most successful marketplace when it comes to children's content. This guy's making it hard for me, isn't he? I'll come over here. And so what we've seen is we have recently put a lot of our children's content into the Plus catalogue, because I think one of the barriers is that a lot of the time children's content is short, and so people aren't using a credit on that content. Putting that into the Plus catalogue, and we're working really hard to work out a whole range of new ways to remunerate and pay for content that recognises short content, and so expect more from that, more on that from us. But what we have seen is once we've put that children's content in, we've seen adoption increase significantly. I've got my colleague Oliver here in the room who will be able to give specific data points to this. He's at the back. But we've seen consumption increase massively, but we've also seen Net Promoter Score of customers who are consuming that content go up, because they're now being able to leverage this across their family. And so it's been a real positive for us. I think that children's content is a space that has been, there's great content, but for various reasons, most of which is Audible's construction, it hasn't been hugely successful. And I think that that's an opportunity for us to change, particularly as we know parents are focused on screen time and how they can reduce screen time, and audio content is seen as a real positive for that. So more to come, a really great start, and it's always been super successful here in Germany, and I think we've got opportunities to grow that elsewhere as well.
One more question, I think we have time for.
Hi, I wanted to ask about native to audio and kind of the whole like Audible creations, Audible exclusives, all this kind of stuff that is maybe not having a paper or ebook publication until later, if at all, and do you count that internally as audiobooks? Is it a separate branch? How much focus is given? It's
how much focus is given is a huge amount. There's not so much focus on that in my presentation today because we're speaking to the publishing industry primarily. But the originals we see as a core component of driving benefit for customers, exclusive content that you can't get anywhere else. And it's really a great space where content can be written directly for the medium and maximize the medium and the listening experience. And so it's something that we invest in heavily in all of our marketplaces. And it's a really interesting point around, and I touched on this before around the audio drama. Is it a podcast? Is it an audio book? Is it an audio drama, multicast narrative and what have you? And I think that the customer doesn't really care. They love great immersive experiences, and that's what we're focused on. And so we've just released the Wastelander series, partnering with Marvel across Europe, which has been hugely successful for us and has benefited from that series effect that I spoke about a moment ago. And so exclusives and made for the format is a huge focus for us. So yeah, thanks for your question.
I think we're going to have to wrap it up. Matthew, I'm sure you're going to get a lot more questions. This was a fantastic presentation. Thank you so much for being here.
Don't be silly. Thank you very much for having me.
And tonight, I'd like to invite all of you guys to join us. Bookwire is hosting an audiobook networking reception just through this door. We have refreshments, and I very much hope that you'll stay and network and talk to each other. Hopefully, Matthew can stay around for a little while and answer some more of your questions. Thank you all so much for coming.